Hi class, today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the three main theoretical perspectives for sociology. We'll be utilizing these perspectives all the time. Any sociology class you take, these are going to be the three main theoretical perspectives for which you interpret society. So the way to understand theoretical perspectives is to think of them as like putting on a pair of glasses, right? So I'm going to look at this thing in society that's happening. I'm going to look at it in perspective of conflict theory. Now I see inequalities and oppression. If I want to look at it in the perspective of functionalist theory, then I'm going to see how there are ways in which society functions as a whole and how aspects need to be existing in order for society to function. Or you look at it through the symbolic interactionist perspective. I can see now people's interactions with each other showing the greater truths in society, the greater norms, the greater expectations. So I know that was a lot all at once, but just remember that these perspectives are how you can choose to look at different occurrences within society. I am also of the belief that there are ways of bringing them all together, looking at functionalist theory and conflict theory together, and then the symbolic interaction as being showing those macro theories in action. Have I lost you? It's okay. We'll get there. We will get there. All right. First and foremost, conflict theory. This is a macro sociological perspective. That means it looks at the greater society, the big institutions. The founder of conflict theory is Karl Marx, of course, with his Communist Manifesto. Now, don't let that scare you. The Communist Manifesto really was just talking about how the history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles. Karl Marx was focusing in on the economic inequality within society. Now, later on in sociological thought, we have now broken that down to you have class, you have race, you have gender and sex, you have sexuality, you have age, you have ability. You have all these different variables where there's one group that is in power and oppressing the other group. So then they are in conflict for scarce resources. So those scarce resources can be prestige or power or privilege. But Karl Marx specifically was talking about class struggles, so how the rich oppress the poor. Conflict theory is going to be seeing all of social life as competition for these scarce resources. Since not everybody's on an equal playing field, those who have more because others have less. And so it is looking at the struggles. Of course, Karl Marx wanted the proletariat, or the 99%, to rise up, realizing that their numbers far outweighed the numbers of the elite, of the bourgeoisie, of the 1%. And to overthrow that oppressive system, alas, has not yet happened. Feminist theory also comes out of conflict theory. Feminist theory is going to be looking specifically at how gender and sex are variables that are used to, women have been oppressed throughout history. Okay, and we'll go more into detail about these within the chapter. This is a quick lecture intro. Functionalist theory is also a macrological sociological point of view. What that means is that, again, they're looking at the institutions of society. They're looking at the big picture, and they're looking at the institution of education, and the institution of marriage, and the institution of law, and the institution of education, and how those institutions are necessary for society to function. Functionalist theory likes to look at society as like a human organism, like all parts are needed for the body to exist, or like if you were like the pieces of the body, like you need the lungs and the skin and the da-da-da. So looking at how society functions is looking at how all the institutions work together. This is going to be looking at, what's the word? It's going to be looking at how people come together in society, work together, how institutions come together and work together within society. It's about working together, where conflict theory, of course, is looking at the conflict with that conflict, right? Functionalist theory is looking at how things work together. Symbolic interactionist theory, which is one of my favorites, by the way, because it looks at the nuances of everyday interaction. So symbolic interactionist theory is micro. This is where the other two theories were macro, looking at the big picture. Symbolic interactionist theory is micro, looking at the interactions of people within society in the day-to-day. And also, if people in society want to revolt against society, the ways in which they do it is indicative of the type of society that they live in. And that also tells us more about society. So it's looking at these interactions, how the individual interacts with other individuals, and also how they push back against society. So macro, macro. I like to think of that old adage, you can't see the forest for the trees, right? Macro is the forest, micro are the trees, right? So you're looking at each individual interaction. This is where we'll see social actors within society have specific behavior and assign meaning to each of those behaviors. I like to look at how we can see inequality within society by looking at people's interactions with each other. Now, that would mean that I'm combining conflict theory and symbolic interactionist theory, right? So when you are talking to somebody, what does your body language look like? Do you defer to somebody, and why? We find that in our society, we as a society generally defer to white men. So if a white man says something, we're more likely to believe that it's true than if any other group, variable, a person says that thing. We have more instances of questioning that truth. That's a symbolic interactionist way to see that the white male has greater privilege within society, right? Isn't this great? You're going to love sociology.